on. This program, this lecture, was initiated by the alumni of our program. We have a group called, organization called the LER Alumni Program Group, and it's made up of alums of our program who give back to our program in the university in various ways. They provide a lot of mentoring and advice to our students. And since the APG group sponsors this lecture, I would like the co-president of the group to welcome the 16th.
The agency is a group of about 35 alums, and we come to campus twice a year. And one of the programs we put on is this program. When we speak to classes, we raise scholarship funds. In fact, I think we're, what, $13,000 short of $1 million. So if anybody represents this month, but we put on a variety of programs. We have a workshop tomorrow. And for those of you who are entering the last couple of years, I sincerely recommend it. There's a variety of workshops, I'm sure, on interviewing skills that placement groups and others put on, but this is unique in that the people interviewing you are people who actually do this for a living. They're corporate recruiters and they're VPs of HR that hire people. So I think it's a great opportunity to check out some skills or sharpen your skills. So if you haven't signed up, Jessica is going to be available and get you all signed up. The last bit of thing I just want to say, we have a birthday, I understand. Douglas Allen. Thank you very much. We appreciate everybody coming and get out of the way.
Now, before we introduce the speaker, though, I would like the board members of the APG to stand up if you would. I bet you have to graduate before you see the first couple of words. Well, some information on tonight's program. Our speaker will speak for 30 or 40 minutes, and he's agreed to respond to questions for another 10 or 15 minutes after that. Please remain seated after the lecture, as the Q&A portion of the program should be equally as interesting, and it will actually be covered on the camera as well, so don't want I normally don't read a bio, but I'm going to read our speaker's bio tonight because he has a very interesting background, and you should have a copy of it, but in case you didn't, let me read it. On September 23rd, 2011, Calafaro, football player at Penn State, made a routine helmet-to-helmet tackle in the game at Ohio State. The result was a broken neck, left him paralyzed at the age of 18. Although he was subsequently given only a 3% chance of walking again, Adam never lost hope. Today, not only walks, but he walks very well. Legendary Penn State Coach Joe Paterno said, "Adam is our miracle." In his view, Adam was the personification of triumph over tragedy, an inspiration to his teammates, his Penn State family, and anyone who hears his story. Through his incredible determination and courage and desire to return to a normal life, Adam was walking on his own 5 months after his injury. In little more than 11 months after his injury, Adam completed one of the major goals he had established for himself. On September 1st, 2001, he walked, then skipped, and jogged onto the Baker Stadium turf in front of a jubilant record crowd of more than 109,000, leading the Nittany Lions onto the field against the Miami Hurricanes. In May 2005, Adam walked across the stage to receive his Penn State degree in labor studies and employment relations. In May 2008, he earned a degree in workers. He worked as an attorney for 5 years and then accepted a position in Bristol Myers Squibb, handling government affairs. In 2011, Adam was elected to the board of freeholders of Gloucester County, New Jersey. He continues to hold that office. And in 2012, he was elected to the Penn State Board of Trustees. Within months of his injury, Adam and his family created the Adam Talaferro Foundation, which provides emotional, financial, and educational assistance to individuals who suffer catastrophic head or spinal cord injuries. The foundation also provides support for research and prevention of those industries and has raised over $1 million to assist individuals and their families who have suffered devastating injuries similar to Adam's. Did I mention that Adam is an LER alum? In fact, Adam is the 16th grad for our program. He asked to present the annual Outstanding Alumni Lecture. And we are honored and privileged that he's agreed to come to campus and speak tonight. Adam?
Coming back here makes me well, two things. I'm extremely jealous of each and every one of you because coming back here makes me remember when I was here and how much fun I had and how I'm getting old. But secondly, it's an honor for me to be here because when I talk to you guys, I see myself in all of you. I'm going to take you back to 1987. You guys born yet? We're going to go back to 1987. So I grew up in South Jersey. Anyone from South Jersey here? Voorhees? Yeah. Someone just raise their hand and act like they're from I grew up in Voorhees. And growing up at the age of 7, my dream, my goal was playing the NFL. And as you can see, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. So when I would tell people I want to play football, I want to be an NFL football player. People looked at me like I was crazy. They say, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not fast enough. But that would just motivate me to want to prove them wrong. So I grew up, family, never had any adversity. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I decided to come up to Penn State for the first time. I had never been to Penn State ever before, but I came up for football camp. Football camp was my first experience here. And I remember coming up here, and coming from South Jersey, I remember driving, and there were mountains and cow pastures. And then when I got out here, it smelled like cow. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to spend 4 years of my life at this place in the middle of nowhere. So I went to camp, and everything went well. I had a good week at camp. And at the end of that week at camp, Coach Paternal said, hey, you know, we have our eye on you, and we would like you to come back next year. And if things go well, you know, there may be a future for you here at Penn State. I remember looking at him saying, this is the last time I'm ever seeing you because I'm never coming back to Penn State. But my junior year, my sophomore year, I got hurt. My junior year, I went back to Penn State that summer. And I remember my dad dropped me off, and I said, Dad, it's the last time I'm coming to Penn State. I'm just doing this as my dad was a big Penn State fan. Although he went to Temple, he always played Temple this week, and all those Temple people are always jealous of us Penn State people. But I told my dad, I said, this is the last time I'm coming up here. I'm just going to go to camp, then I'll be it. So I went to camp, and at the end of that week of football camp, Coach Paternal called me into his office, and I was 16 at the time. And he said, Adam, you had a good week of camp. We want to offer you a scholarship to play football at Penn State. And I said, yeah, I'm in. My dad came to pick me up. He said, how did camp go? I said, I committed to play football at Penn State. He said, you did what? I didn't know what to say. Think about this. If you're 16, for those of you who know Coach Paternal, he's like a legendary football coach. If he asks you a question, I'm like, I I'm not going to say no. So I was committed to Penn State my junior year in high school. And I was excited because I was getting recruited by a lot of different schools, but my dream was to play somewhere close to home and play for a good football program and go to a school that had a fantastic labor studies program. So I'd never been away from home. Then I went away to Penn State. That summer I came up early and I was there for the summer session. I remember coming up and I was just so excited to be away from home, to have some freedom. I went out from time to time, and things could have been better. In our very first game, we played USC, Southern Cal, in the Meadowlands, in the kickoff classic. And I was a true freshman, and Coach Turtles will give me a chance to play as a true freshman, so I was excited. So I remember coming out of the tunnel. You know, in high school, you play in front of 5,000, 10,000 people. But this game, we're playing in front of 80,000 people. And I remember coming out, looking out of the tunnel, and USC, they're the Trojans. So they had this big white Trojan horse that ran across the field. Then I remember looking across, and I saw USC cheerleaders. Man, I had arrived. But unfortunately, we lost that game. Then we lost a couple more. So things weren't going as planned because when I committed to Penn State in 1999, this probably sounds like years ago to you guys, Penn State was the #1 ranked team. I thought we were going to championships every year, we were going to bowl games. But we lost my first 3 games. And then we went out to play Pitt. And Pitt was a big rivalry with Penn State the last time we played Pitt. And we lost to Pitt. So this is not starting my career as I expected. And I had just started as a true freshman, so I was undecided. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I said, you know what? We'll give it a first semester and then try to find out my major. But then came the game, we went out to Ohio State. And I was excited because as a freshman, each week I was getting a little more playing time. I remember calling all my friends and family and saying, make sure you watch the game this week because I'm going to be getting a lot of time. I'm going to be on TV. If I score, it's going down. I'm doing something. But unfortunately, that game changed my life. I went in to make a tackle I made hundreds, if not thousands of times before. But when I went in to make the tackle, I put my head down, and my thigh hit the running backs. I played corner. For those who don't know, I played defensive back. I was responsible for tackling running backs and trying to bat the ball down when the quarterback threw the ball. But when I went in to make the tackle, I broke my neck. And I remember waking up on the ground, and I tried to move my arm. I tried to gather myself, pick myself up off the ground. I couldn't move my arms. So, oh my God, I broke my arm. I can't believe I broke both my arms. How the hell did I do that? And then I tried to gather my legs, and nothing happened. But the thought of being paralyzed never went through my head. You know, you think anything in life, you always think bad stuff happens to somebody else. So although I was on the ground, unable to move anything, I never really panicked. Because when I was on the ground, I remember the trainers came down and said, you know where you are? I said, yeah, Columbus, Ohio. You know your name, Adam Charles Farrell. I'm like, I'm answering these questions correctly. I can't be hurt that bad. But when they took me off the field and took me to the hospital, what they found was I shattered my C5 vertebrae in my neck, and I severely bruised my spinal cord, which left me paralyzed from the neck down. And ironically, my parents, they came to every one of my games, from Middle League all throughout high school, even all my Penn State games. But this was the first game that they weren't at because it was on national TV, so they watched it on TV. So they called my parents and my mom, hated football from day one because she always said, you're too small to be out there. Just so you all know, when I played football, it's a little bigger than this. I was the same height, and I was about 30 pounds bigger. So I had this injury, and I was out of it. But I remember waking up in the hospital in Columbus, in Ohio, and I saw my dad, and I said, what happened? Am I able to still play football? And I could tell in his eyes that something was wrong. But he said, you've got bigger problems to deal with. But the interesting thing, the doctors told my parents, my dad, when he got to the hospital, I broke my neck, that it's likely that I'll never walk again. So he heard that news coming into the hospital, but they made the decision not to tell me that. So although I had this horrible injury, I didn't know how bad it was because my parents didn't want me hearing any bad news. So I had my surgery, I was on Saturday. I had my surgery in Columbus on Monday. Then they airlifted me back after 2 weeks in intensive care there. They airlifted me back to Thomas Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, where I was in intensive care there for 3 weeks. And when all that happened, I had to withdraw from Penn State. So I was a true freshman. I was only in 2 classes for 2 weeks. I was undecided, but they withdrew me from school because I was going to have a year of rehab. So I went to this place called McGee Rehab in Philadelphia, and I remember I was on a bed. They rolled me into this place called McGee. I remember looking around and I said, I can't believe I feel so bad for all these disabled people, because there are people there in wheelchairs, people there on ventilators. And I looked at myself, and that was the first time I realized that I was disabled myself. And I broke down and cried because, just think about it, a week ago, I was playing football at Penn State, and now I'm in a hospital bed, unable to move anything from my neck down. And there were countless nights, for the first 2 weeks there, I'll say, why me? Out of all the people in the world, all the guys that played football at Penn State, how the hell did this happen to me? I struggled with it. I'm sure we all have adversity or different things in our lives. We say, why did this happen to me? I went through that for 2 weeks. And then after about the third week and about 2 months after my injury, I decided, I can ask why me to the cows come home. But the only thing I can do now is work towards getting out of the position that I was in. So from that point, I decided, I'm going to try to get out of it. And it started that morning. The first morning, my therapist walked in. And throughout my football career, I always had these mean football coaches. But for the first time in my life, my therapist was this 5'6" woman that was meaner than any football coach I ever had in my life. And she came in, and the first thing she asked me to do was, she said, Adam, try to move your finger. I remember, just think about it, trying to move your finger. And of course, I couldn't move my arm, so I remember looking down, and I tried to move, and nothing would happen. They said, try to move a toe, and then nothing would happen. It was about 8 weeks since my injury, and I was starting to wonder, am I ever going to get better again? The thought of playing football was no longer the prime thought of my mind. For me, it was just being able to walk again. And then, about 9 weeks into my injury, it was about midnight, and I was in my room talking to my nurse like I would do every night, and she said, Adam, your toe is moving. And I had become so accustomed to nothing moving, I said, it is? And I looked down and it was moving. He said, try to move it again. And I was able to move it. So they called my parents back to the hospital at midnight, and they saw me moving my toe. And we had a little party in the hospital. And around 12:30, my dad gets an idea. He said, we got to call your coaches at Penn State to let them know that you're moving. Coach Turner at the time was probably in his 80s. He probably been sleeping about 6 hours. But we called him anyway. We called all the coaches. It was like the best experience because I was moving again and that there was hope that I may be able to walk again. But what I didn't know, which many of you who haven't been in the hospitals or been through anything through healthcare, nothing is official unless the doctor sees it. So the next morning, the doctor walks in. He said, we heard the good news, we heard you were moving. Yeah, the doctor was moving my toe. He said, all right, show me. So I remember looking up at the doctor, looking down my toe. I started straining. Of course, nothing happened. And he turned around and he walked out the room. And so I went from my highest point to back to the lowest point of my recovery because I saw that the doctor really didn't believe that I was moving. He didn't believe it. But that night was the first night I had belief in myself. There's so many people in the Penn State community that I never met in my life that were praying for me and saying, you're going to walk me, you're going to walk me. But I didn't even, at times, didn't even believe in myself. And that night I said, you know what? I am going to walk again. And I tell you that story because there's so many times in your lives that there's going to be people that don't believe you. There's going to be times when people do believe in you. I think it all starts with yourself. In order to accomplish anything after you get out of here, you first have to believe in yourself. When I had that first self-belief, that's when my recovery really started to take off. So that morning, we started doing 6 hours of therapy every day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 2 at night. And eventually, things started to move. My fingers started to move. That toe movement, my toes started to come back. And it's so weird, throughout my entire recovery, my left side was so much stronger than my right side. So like my toe, my left side started to move. It would take about 3 weeks later for the right side to start to move. But it was like a baby, relearning how to do everything all over again. And then it got to the point where I was trying to take my first steps. Like you who have little brothers or sisters or cousins, that big moment when they take their first step, we invited every person that I knew to the hospital to watch me take their first step. And I did. And that was my validation. I was on my road back to recovery. But my biggest thing that I wanted to do was, I wanted to get back to Penn State. Because I was in the hospital for 9 months. And for some of you that can remember your freshman year, I don't know if we have any freshmen in this room. Freshman is like the best, I won't say the best time. Once you turn 21. But your freshman year is supposed to know everybody, and when you really go on your basis here at Penn State. So I was excited to kind of restart that again. So when I left the hospital, I was on 2 crutches, 2-hand crutches. And then I eventually got to 1 crutch, and then to no crutches. And at that point, I was ready to come back to Penn State. So I came back, I got injured in September 2000, and in May of 2000, that next summer, I was back here at Penn State. So when I got back, I'm like, man, nice to be back. I went out that night, enjoyed all my friends. The next morning I woke up, I didn't know how to get through Penn State. What do I want to do? I can't play football anymore. Because people would ask me, what are you going to do when you grow up? I said, I'm playing NFL. That's what I truly thought. But now that football was gone, I had to decide what I wanted to do. And some of my teammates had told me they were in this labor studies department. I had no idea what the hell it was. I said, that sounds pretty interesting. So I remember going to our academic advisor, and I had the opportunity to meet with Paul Clark. As you know, he really sells his department very well. I was like, man, I'm in. And it was very, for me, it was very interesting because I felt like I had a home when I came to this department. I'm sure many of you know, get to know many of your professors, talk to them about class, and that's what I had when I was here. And I was motivated to do well in all my classes here. I can't say I did well in meteorology and all that other stuff. But in my labor studies courses, they were fun for me. As fun as you can think class can be, I was going to say. And then came the point where, okay, I'm in this great department. What do I want to do with it? And what I did one night, those tests where you answer a bunch of random questions and it comes out with what you want to do in life? I did that, and mine came out with law. Man, I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I didn't do anything about law. I remember going back to my apartment that night, and I told my roommate, I was like, listen, I took this test, and it came out as law. I think I'm going to try to be a lawyer. He said, yo, law schools are smart people, right? I was like, man, someone who knew me inside and out, my own good friend, didn't believe that I had the ability to go to law school. And I'll be 100% honest with you. When I was here, before I had my injury, I was that person didn't like raising their hand in class. Biggest things that were important to me before my injury was who were we playing next week and where the next party was. Those were like my two things. The time of practice was the next day. But then after my injury, I tell people all the time, the injury was horrible. Like I would never wish anyone going through a spinal cord injury. But the life lessons that I learned going through that injury were priceless. It really taught me to appreciate each and every day. I remember when I was in high school, I couldn't wait to get to college. When I was in college, I couldn't wait to start working. I didn't appreciate each and every day. When I had my injury, I realized, think about how blessed you are each and every day to just get up out of the bed. I took walking for granted. I took getting up each and every day for granted. But now, when I got back to Penn State, I took each and every day as an opportunity. An opportunity to learn something, an opportunity to get better. I tell you, I wasn't the smartest guy in the world. I'm sure my transcripts are somewhere still around here. And you wouldn't be impressed. by my grades. But I tried to learn something each and every day, whatever it was, or meet somebody new. When I decided I wanted to go to law school, I dedicated myself. I said, I'm no smarter than any one of you guys. But if you would have told me I was going to go to law school in high school, I'd say, get the heck out of here. There's no way I can do it. But I tell you that story because it starts with yourself, like I said a little bit ago. That believe in yourself. I told myself, if I can get to the spinal cord injury, if I got people around me, you look around this room, your professors are here, your classmates, your friends, each and every one of us are here to help each other succeed. When I was paralyzed, I had to ask people to feed me, I had to ask people to help get me dressed. And I realized it's okay to ask for help. So before my injury, I wouldn't ask my professor for anything. I wouldn't ask for help. But after my injury, as I got involved in this department, I was always stopping by my professor's offices, always asking different questions. So that's what I needed to help get me through here. And then it got to the point where it was time for me to take my LSATs, the law school SAT, to get into law school. It sucked. It was a lot of reading. It was like preparing for the SATs all over again. But it's one of those things that you dedicate the time, you put in effort, you can get through it. I took my LSATs, I got into law school, and I went to Rutgers Law School. So my first day of law school, I walk in with straight Penn State gear on. I walk in and like everyone's like looking at me like, who is this person? And I could tell I was no longer at Penn State because it was a whole different vibe in law school. But I was that person, you know, when I was at Penn State, I'll be honest with you, I sat in the back of the classroom, just kind of hung out. But at law school, I had to sit right here. I was that annoying person in the classroom and I was, excuse me, can you say that again? Can you explain that? Because I needed that to help me get through. And prior to law school, I attended this talk. I was sitting out there. And the lecturer was the birthday boy here. Mr. Doug Allen. And I remember sitting and listening to him talk about, his talk was better. I saw all the amazing experiences that he had and how he worked with the NFL and PA. Man, that sounds awesome. Because I wanted, like I said, I was already interested in going, I wanted to, my dream, I wanted to play football anymore. I wanted to be a sports agent. So I was like, I can't play football, I'm going to represent all my teammates that play in the NFL. So Doug was talking about how he was with the NFL players. I'm sitting there, I was in the back. It was like a room full like this. And I said, I got to get to that guy. And I was like, I still felt like I was kind of cool. So I had one of our coaches, a guy named Joe Sarah. As soon as he was done talking, standing right here, and pulled him aside. And I had an opportunity to meet the lecturer and tell him about what I wanted to do with my life. And that summer, he gave me an opportunity as an intern to work with the NFLPA. And I tell you that because use all your resources here. There's so many, I'm sure you hear all the time, the Penn State Alumni Network is unbelievable. And the people in this alumni network are always willing to help Penn State. I had never met Doug prior to this. We had an opportunity to talk, and that summer, I was at NFLPA. And it really intrigued me to want to go that much further in law. And then I interned with an actual sports agent, and realized sports agent, like that whole world is crazy. And I don't want to do it. So I decided to go to I finished up Rutgers Law School in 2008, and I went to a corporate law firm in Philadelphia called Montgomery McCracken. It's a big law firm. I did labor and employment work. What we did was we represented companies when they were sued by their employees for racial, sexual, any type of discrimination, any issue that the company had, we represented them. A lot of the things, when I remember sitting in my office the very first day at the law firm, and I was like, first thing I thought was, man, I wish I was back at Penn State because now I really have to work. But the second thing was, I was excited because I was going to be able to apply so many things that I learned here at Penn State in my everyday life as a labor attorney, as an employment attorney. And I enjoyed it. I spent 3 years at a firm called Montgomery McCracken. Then I went over to another firm called Dwayne Mars. It's a large Philadelphia firm. I did employment work there. And for me, I'm the type of person, I like being out and about, meeting new people. But at my law firm, we had like 1,200 attorneys, and everyone kind of sat in their office every day. And we did wrote legal briefs. It just wasn't exciting for me. I tell you, I wasn't passionate about it. And that's the biggest, if you don't take anything away from my talk tonight, I think the most important thing is do something, whatever it is. There's so many different opportunities when you come out of the school. But make sure you're passionate about whatever it is that you do. And for me, because of my injury, I wanted to be involved in something like in healthcare. But I still wanted to use my background that I had here. So I started looking around. I started asking for help. Like again, if you let people know what your goals are, if you let people know what your dreams are, there's going to be someone around you that's going to be willing to help you out. And I had that help from a Penn Stater. I applied to a bunch of different places, and I submitted my resume to Bristol Myers Squibb. Bristol Myers Squibb is a large pharmaceutical company, and the head, our vice president, is a Penn Stater. So, I went in for my interview, and I would say about 80% of our conversation was about our times at Penn State. And after that interview, I had a good feeling that things were going to work out. So the moral of that story is, wherever you're looking to work, see if the guy in Penn State is at work. But I've been at Bristol Myers Squibb for 2 years now. And what I do at Bristol Myers Squibb is I do our state government affairs and our policy advocacy. So Bristol Myers Squibb is a pharmaceutical company where we make drugs that help people with cancer and HIV and other therapeutic areas. But our main therapeutic areas are cancer and HIV. And what I do is I cover state government affairs. So I cover New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware. And what I do is I lobby legislators to make sure that they pass or don't pass any laws that hurt patients' access to our medications. So regardless if Bristol Myers makes it, if Merck makes a drug, I don't care. My biggest mission each and every day is fighting to make sure that patients have access to the innovative medications that pharmaceutical companies make each and every day. And that is something that I'm passionate about because I think, you think about my story, if I didn't have access to great health care, if I didn't have access to the resources here at Penn State, I don't know where I'd be today. And my biggest concern is I don't want someone's financial well-being to be a determining factor in someone's ability to get great care. So I travel, I'm in Harrisburg a lot, I'm in Trenton a lot, and each and every day that's what we talk about. And I always harken back to different lessons that I learned sitting in the chairs that you're sitting in right now. I can be perfectly honest with you. I'm sure there's some days where you're tired, and you're like, why am I here? Can't wait to start working. But all I can ask you to do is try to make yourself a little bit better each and every day. And after some time, all that, by the time you graduate, by the time you get out of here, the person that you came in here as will be a totally different person when you get out. And I don't have to tell you this, but having a degree from Penn State and having a degree from this school carries a tremendous amount of weight when you're out trying to get a job. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I talk to a lot of Penn Staters, a lot of people. I've been only in the real world for 8 years now. No, I can't do math. 6 years. I have an opportunity to talk to a lot of people about jobs, and people send me resumes all the time. And when I see Penn State at the top of that resume, I try to do everything I can to help that person. Because I feel, when people say we are Penn State, that is true. That's real. And I found that out when I got hurt. Because when I had my injury, I had so many people I'd never met in my life say, hey, I I saw you got hurt. I don't know who you are, but you went to Penn State. So I want to send you a car. I'm going to come visit you. And that's when I realized that this place is truly a big family. And all of you in here, you'll always be connected for the rest of your lives. So for me now, to have the opportunity to come back here and talk to you, it's an absolute honor to be here today because I said, when I was asked to talk here, I was like, what am I going to say? I started writing stuff down. I said, you know what? These are my peeps. So I don't need anything written down. And that's how I feel because when I look out to the crowd, I see myself in you. And I wish you all the best of luck in whatever it is you do. Because like I said, you see the people sitting in this room. We're all here to help you. The same way that Doug helped me, we're all willing to help you in that same way. And for the board, thank you guys for all the work that you do because I'm sure everyone here is busy, has different responsibilities going on in their lives. But as you can see, we all make time to come back here and try to help in our own little way. And 2 years ago, I said, I'm going to, when everything went down here at Penn State, I said, I had this wonderful lady right here, my friend Kim. We were at the bowl game, the last bowl game that Penn State went to. She said, Adam, you should think about running for the board of trustees. That sounds like a good idea. Back then.
Off in the planes now.
And I had heard the planes, but joining the board of trustees, people ask, how is it? Because everyone reads about the board of trustees and all the crazy stuff that goes on. I said, everything you read is pretty much that crazy. It's been one of the biggest learning experiences of my life. I joined the board. My first meeting was when the free report came out. Ooh. My biggest role that I've tried to serve on the board is being someone to try to bring the sides together. Because it's no secret that there's a division amongst our board. But at the end of the day, like everyone sitting in this room, what I always say is we're all Penn Staters. So let's try to find a way to work together. I mean, we all know what our differences are. Let's try to find out where we agree and try to highlight that. Because, I say, on the board of trustees, our biggest job is making